Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Hudson, Thursday, June 28th, 2012. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is consideration of the 6/14/12 minutes.
Move for approval?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Petition for annexation of 20 acres of east of Carmichael Road and south of Stage Line. 423, 429 Stage Line Road, Hudson Hospital, Inc.
The request for annexation by the Hudson Hospital, Inc. is 20 acres east and north of the current Hudson Hospital and clinics. There's just two minor issues with the annexation ordinance, or not annexation ordinance, but annexation agreement that still needs to be taken care of. They have to do one with Carmichael interchange assessments. Only the former George Holt property is subject to those assessments. The Horn property was not included in that assessment area. And there's Stage Line Road assessments, which it's assessment program. It's fairly old, and we're the finance officer. We're trying to go through those and make sure that if it is applicable, and if it is, and to what amount. So those are two issues that we're trying to. So from the Plan Commission standpoint, the property is contiguous to the city, can be served with sanitary sewer and water. You'll see in a few minutes the proposed 41,000 square foot medical office facility. I'm recommending recommending that you recommend approval of the annexation to the Common Council with the condition that the annexation agreement would be approved by the Common Council as part of the annexation consideration. That's really more of a financial instrument than what the Plan Commission typically deals with.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
Is there any concern over the increased traffic inflow into the Carmichael intersection? You know, that's going to be expanded.
Right.
I don't think it's overpopulated or an issue at this point, but is there anything, because that's a pretty, that whole area is an area that is very traffic sensitive or volume sensitive, and so I guess I have to bring that issue up. Could that be an issue?
Well, unless you want to now require a traffic impact statement to be done, but you know, that issue has not been brought up by the city engineer. I guess, you know, we still need to design the section, a new section of Stage Line between where the current access is on Stage Line through the new access, but that would be designed to, and I know Kevin's expressed some considerations for left-hand turns exiting the site at the new proposed to make that as safe as possible. So that'd be something we'd be incorporating into that design consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Denny, will this be taxable or non-taxable property?
Well, the city assessor will have to determine that. That's a responsibility of the city assessor. They'll have to, typically the area that's primarily used by the hospital has been tax exempt. Other areas it's been, you're leased out to other entities, have been taxable consideration, and a percentage of the property has been taxable. Now, depending on how the property is utilized or the new building is utilized, it all may be subject to taxation.
Okay.
Is that not straightforward? Do we know that in advance, or is that determined after occupancy and determination of what they're doing now?
That's correct. They'll have to be determined by the city assessor once they occupy the building.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe my question is off base, but if they're widening the road, one of the biggest complaints on the Stage Line is obviously sidewalks and stuff, and I guess my thought process has always been if once we have to widen the road, is something that we would try and consider. Is this, I mean, I'm trying to see from the plans, but is that going to be something that is going to be put in once they widen the road, since they're...
That has not been part of the proposal yet. I mean, if that's something you want us to look at as far as the roadway improvements, we certainly can.
I would like us to look at that.
Well, and to piggyback on that, is there bike lanes built in there? Is that any part of the city, call it infrastructure system for bikeways, pathways, sidewalks, all that? You know, is that something that should be incorporated into that as could be something that should be included.
I,
I have to ask that question.
I think that if we're, any chance we have of widening, that we're gonna be widening stage line, we need to start considering that. Especially since we expanded south and there's been multiple requests for stuff like that, and,
Well, that's why I bring it up.
yeah.
Okay.
We can look at that issue in regards
Okay.
to the road improvement.
So the only issues are,
The issues for the annexation agreement are the two assessments, one, the Carmichael interchange assessment, and then secondly, we need to go through, city staff needs to make a determination where the stage line road assessments are applicable, and if so, how much,
and this can be resolved internally.
in the annexation agreement. That, once that, the draft annexation agreements draft is finalized, reviewed by the city attorney, then be submitted to the hospital for their review. And that agreement would have to be agreed upon before the city would consider, the common council would consider an ordinance to approve the annexation.
Is there a motion?
Then I will move to approve this, but with the conversation that we've just had as far as bike lanes, traffic consideration, all the other issues that apparently are unresolved and need to be determined, but I want this to move ahead and have this happen within the city.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item is the final development plans for a 41,000 square foot medical office building, 409 Stage Line Road, Health Partners.
Paul, are you gonna think, maybe, are you gonna speak from here and operate it from here, or can you?
Use the mic like this?
Yes, please.
I can do that. I think I'll move around.
Okay.
I might want to point also. Okay. Is this on?
Yep.
I believe so. I'll just assume it is. Great, thank you, everyone. It's good to be back here again to tell you about the final development plans for our project, which is a medical office building at Hudson Hospital and Clinics. I'm going to move around the side here so I can point to things as I'm talking. But I'll quickly review, since you've already seen this, I'll just quickly review what we went through last time. There are a few developments, and I'll highlight the things that may have changed since the last time we talked. But for starters, it's a two-story medical office building, 41,000 square feet. It's about evenly divided on both floors, and it's located just north of the hospital here on this site. And you can see the left side shows what the current conditions are, shows current parking, and the connection from Stage Line Road coming into the site, where the parking is. On the new plan, you can see what's changed, and I'll go through those things. But for starters, the addition is here. It connects to the hospital through a link. There's a small courtyard separating the hospital from the new medical office building. And parking has been changed somewhat, and even the entry onto the site is being changed. So whereas currently you come on from Stage Line Road off to the west and get your parking or drive to the drop-off at the hospital, we're going to be changing that eventually to coming in more from the northwest up here for everyone, and you'll have a much better visibility of the hospital as you're coming in. It'll be a grander kind of entry with a boulevard, and it'll be much easier for people to understand intuitively as they enter the site. And by the way, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. So we've broken it into phases because while the construction is starting, there's still going to be a need to get onto the site. So we'll be leaving this entry point in at the beginning of construction, and we'll start phase one, which will be this zone up here, which will allow us to create the future entry point and new parking. So while that's going on, the existing path all the way through to the back here will continue, and this parking lot will be available along with the one here during phase one. Then in phase two, we'll continue to keep this open, and we'll have parking here and new parking up here, but then we can start to develop this portion, which includes the rest of the entry drop-off area, and begin to do the building. And once we get this site work done, they'll continue to do the building, but then they can start on phase 3, which,
What type of time frame do you think you're looking at between the two transitions? In other words, you know, the building's coming up, you're putting in new entrances.
right. That's a good question, and I don't know if we've settled all of that, but I'd say that, you know, if it takes a month, let's say, to do the first part up here, then we'll move down here, and once the site work is done, which may take, let's say, another few weeks, we're not going to wait till the building's done before we do phase 3, but
So my real question is then, are you gonna put the parking lots in first? And so, in other words, you come in from another direction, the parking lots are there, they're established. You can come in
Yes.
from either direction, and it doesn't matter which way you come in, and you can park wherever you want, or what are you gonna do?
so, for instance, when we put this section in and we move into phase 2,
Right.
we'll leave this one open, and we haven't discussed it, but there's a good possibility that we'll open that one, and you'd have 2 options for getting into the site at that time. And you'll have parking here and here. Then once we start doing this, we'll have to close this portion. This will be the only way in, and you'll have this place to park, and this part will be operable back in here. And then once this is finished, you'll never have access to the site from that side again. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. So we want to talk a little bit about parking spaces and the number of spaces we're providing. The existing hospital right now has 592 spaces, and the amount required by code is 452. So we're over 100 additional spaces than what's required currently. And we're providing 12 handicap parking spaces, whereas 9 are required by code. In the new configuration, the hospital and the MOB together will provide 803 parking spaces. That would be the 452, I should say, what would be required by code is 452 plus 170. That would be 622, but we're going to provide 803.
With that said, I mean, I know you have employee parking on the backside,
Right.
and, you know, we're a little concerned about, let's call it green space and all that, and we don't like a lot of asphalt where it doesn't need to be asphalt.
Right, exactly.
Well, I'm not against what you just said, but I'm just asking the question, with the employee parking that's on the backside of the building and what you're proposing, do you need all that? I mean,
Currently-
where are you coming up with
That's
a
right.
place that you need 800 parking
Yeah,
spots?
they increased parking about a year ago because even though they were meeting the code, they needed more parking spaces just because the traffic was heavier than what code called for. So they did add, they added 130 spaces about a year ago, and that was right here. So with the addition of the MOB, they're going to get a lot more traffic because now they have people coming for shorter time periods and coming more frequently. So they're going to be providing most of the parking for the hospital visitors and the MOB visitors up here, with the exception of this small lot here, which is going to be for MOB staff.
So call it transients, people coming in for an hour or less.
That's
or
right.
an
There's
hour or
going
so.
to be a lot of traffic that way,
Okay.
where people are just coming in for short periods. They're getting rides from people, and those people will be waiting with them. So it is going to generate a lot of parking. And we're judging this, you know, the future need based on what the current needs are and the fact that this will be an MOB and not a hospital function
Right.
with a higher demand for parking.
Okay.
So I wanted to mention this piece here because we don't plan to do this right away. This is an additional 46 spaces, and because there's groups that are in this wing of this is the MOB part of the hospital currently, there are groups that are going to be moving over to the new building, and then there's going to be backfill to fill in with future tenants. That won't happen right away, and so the need for this parking isn't going to happen right away. So what we're showing it as part of our plan because it's going to happen. The question is, it may happen after this parking happens. So We're pointing that out to you. That's not something that we showed you last time, and it's a new development. But we plan to do the design work along with the other design work.
How many parking spots are in the back side of that? And also in comparison to what you've told us would be up on the north side and then on the south side?
How much is on the south side? Well, I
Yes,
can
sir.
give you bits and pieces.
Well,
I don't have it added up, but I have 34, 69, 98, and 130 is currently what's there.
400 then.
Okay, that's good.
Ballpark.
That's good.
Ballpark. Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I wanted to mention also that when we were here last time, there were retaining walls that we had on the site, and they were located on this edge. We no longer have retaining walls. We've worked out the grading so that it won't be required, so that's a benefit, we think, both for maintenance and safety. The other item was, you had mentioned last time, you had made a suggestion about a guardrail along the north end, because we had people parking up along that edge, and it was a steep slope down, or steepish slope down to the retention ponds. And we've reconfigured this so that we only have a drive up along that edge now. And it's a 20% slope. We don't feel that we need a guardrail there. There aren't going to be pedestrians going over to that edge, and it's not, we don't think it's that dangerous that it would require a guardrail along that edge. So we're not showing anything there, and I mean, it's open for discussion with you, but it doesn't seem unusual to us.
Question?
Yeah,
You go back to the, where you had the retaining walls,
right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
what kind of grade do you have to the right of that, before you hit the, the steep grade there? How much space do you have?
Before we hit the steep grade, I couldn't tell you right here, but,
It's hard, I'm trying to see it on.
yeah, and I don't know if, we could look up a drawing that we have available. It's not in this group of drawings that we brought you.
Is it like right next to it, or is there gonna be some green space between there?
I think there's going to be a gradual slope first before it gets steep.
Okay, so it's not.
It's not
abutting
right
up
there. It's not
against it.
right
Okay,
there.
that was my
No.
question.
There's a little
There'll be
space.
some setback.
There'll be some area that's a gradual slope before you hit the steep portion.
Setback.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. And I want to talk about utilities too, but I think I want to do that on a different drawing. So why don't unless there are any other questions regarding the plans and the site development, I wanted to show you just updated renderings of the building, but we could stay here if there's something else you want to talk about with the site.
I have one question. We did bring it up last time, and we were concerned about the stormwater pond. You said there's no concern over that at this point in time.
That's correct.
With that being said, is that gonna be, is there gonna be vegetation? Is there gonna be trees put in there? Is there gonna be something, some buffer put in there that,
Yes.
that would mitigate everything that you're saying?
Right, and this plan includes our landscape plan shown on it, and so I can tell you that it's...
May be premature here, yeah, I know.
No, it's okay. There's enough information here. I can tell you a little bit about it. The pond is sized for this size of parking lot, and we know that there's enough space so that if they decide to add more parking, for instance here, that they could expand the pond in that zone and have higher capacity for water. The other thing is we're showing some planted areas around here with some trees that are going to be planted right around the perimeter of it. And of course, we want to keep the types of trees to a height that it won't disturb the helipad here, but we do plan to plant around the perimeter of it. Yeah. All right?
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, sure. So we had brought some renderings last time to show you, and these are new renderings, but they're very similar to what we had before. And I'll just mention a couple of things about it. This is as if you were standing under the existing canopy of the hospital as you're driving under showing the medical office building. So this is the link. You can see it's glass on both sides, so there's a courtyard back there, and you'll have nice views going back all the way to where food service is. And we expect that that space back in there could be used by people having lunch on a nice day. And then the building here, 2 stories, the link continues on the lower level all the way to the lobby, and it's glass facing out to the parking area and the entry area. And we think what's nice about that is it will activate the space because you'll see people moving about day and night, both inside and outside the buildings, which helps give people a sense of community when they can see other people using facilities. And once to the building, there is a multi-story high lobby. It's a high 2-story space. So there'll be a second floor up there, and then offices on the second and first floor, but the first floor offices will be behind the link. The materials we're showing are similar to the materials that are currently in the hospital, on the hospital. There's a ribbed panel that goes horizontal, and there's another panel that's more of a flat panel that's used also on the hospital. And the colors will harmonize with what's on there. In most cases, they'll be the exact same color and materials, such as the split-face block will use the same colors that the hospital has, and the metal panel. One of the metal panels will be the exact same color as what's on there, and then one of the panels will be a darker shade. We're using aluminum windows, window frames, and so the materials are split-face block, two different metal panels, and aluminum frame windows. Yeah, next one. And this is just another view from the other side, more from the entry point. So this is on the boulevard as you're coming in. We were positioned over there before. And you can just see how much glazing there is looking around the building. And we even want to get some light coming in from above down through the double height space. So that shows what it's going to look like. And then moving on, I think unless you want to see the interior floor plans, let's just move down to the site and talk about, let's cover this one first. This was something we added today just to give everybody an idea of the entire facility, including parking, in a 3D view. This is from Revit, and Revit does these wonderful things these days where you can instantly get these images. So it shows how it's positioned, all the new plantings that we plan to do, and the new parking areas. So all those trees are new trees that we're adding. And then let's move on down to the site. And if you could do a little zooming so that we can kind of focus. We're going to talk to you about two issues having to do with the site. One has to do with the entry, and the other with, there we go, with the sanitary sewer. And I know, Denny, you might want to chime in when you want here, but there is going to be a widening of Stage Line Road at the entry, and the question has come up about how that will be accomplished. Currently, we're working with BKBM engineers to work on the site civil engineering, and we understand that you may be interested in having owner perform the design work for the work that's part of the city's work. And so we have made the suggestion that our civil engineer perform that work on the city property.
So basically, the design, it'll be part of the project, the city will review it and provide consultation as far as the section and number of lanes and so forth. So it'll be built to the requirements of the city, which would have to come back for a review. But it'll be part of their project.
The good thing about that is they already understand what the issue is, what in terms of our project, so I think they would be best suited to also do the work right at the entry, just off-site. The other issue is the sanitary sewer, which we're redirecting. Currently it goes under the parking lot where the future building will go, and it heads over to this side. Maybe I should come over on this side. And we're rerouting it around our building, so we want to take it all the way over to here and connect up with the sanitary sewer that is under the road over here. Your engineer has reviewed this and has made the suggestion that instead of taking the sanitary and connect it up here and have to demolish part of the road and make the connection, put in a manhole, that we keep it on the property and take it down and reconnect, where is it? Right here, where the line is on our property, put a manhole, and then you won't have to demolish the road. The reason that we have wanted to keep it up here is that it would be shorter, it would be a shorter distance to connect, and it would also be sloped a little steeper. We've had it at a 1.5% slope on our property. If we were to take it down to here, it would essentially have to change to a 1.3% slope. The 1.3% slope is still suitable to do. It would just be a little bit shallower slope. And so really what it comes down to is weighing the costs of doing a shorter line and having to disrupt the road temporarily versus doing a longer line and not having to disrupt the road. Either way has costs associated with it. And so,
Why is the city recommending that you go down to this?
Less disturbance on stage line.
How long, how much, how long is it, how many days would stage line be disturbed? I mean, how many days would that take to rip up the road and put that in? I'm gonna recommend approval of the plans. This issue can be resolved. We'll come back with them, discuss the issue of which way might be best. I mean, there's a possibility of stage line is gonna be disrupted, that maybe that area is going to be disrupted anyway, so we'll take a look at that with the city engineer again, and we'll let them make the final decision.
those are really the only two issues that we have from the letter that we received from the engineer. Everything else we're addressing in our drawings.
The city staff's recommending approval, continued on the city engineer recommendations. Of course, be the provision that the roadway improvements need to be cooperative work with the hospital and the city of Hudson for design, and then secondly, this issue of the sanitary sewer is addressed and resolved. I think that's a technical issue that the engineers can address.
So just for a clarification, the hospital's engineers are gonna be doing the roadway engineering. But are you gonna give them
No, we're gonna
direction
give them the guidance
before they
on-
do it, or are you
Oh,
gonna give
absolutely,
them?
absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion? Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve based on, that the city engineer's recommendation, contingent upon the city engineer's recommendation and, any improvements that Denny feels need to be done.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussions? All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is a final development plans for a 6344 square foot office building at 2321 Jack Bro Drive, Lot 5, St. Croix Business Park, East, Procenta, the Hampton Group LLC. You done with the overhead, or should I attempt it? Let's leave it.
Procentive proposes a three-phase office building in St. Croix Business Park East. This is Old Highway 35 is located to the east, Tower Road is to the south. This would be the southwest lot of that new subdivision. State Trunk Highway 35 is to the west. Again, you access the site off of Highway 35, Jack Burrow Drive, then Jack Burrow Drive goes north and south, and this would be at the south cul-de-sac of Jack Burrow Drive. Again, it's a three-phase project. First phase is this phase. Parking lot, fire lane. The only issue on the fire lane is the width. It needs to be 20 feet wide surface versus 10 feet wide. Landscape plans are fine. It's a very straightforward project. City staff recommends approval contingent on plans being revised per the city engineer comments and the fire department comments. Dave Lundy is here tonight. If you have any questions of Dave will be the project contractor for the Proceni group.
May I ask a question as to what type of business is this and what are
Well, basically, they are a consultant for electronic administration for health service facilities, most primarily behavioral health type businesses.
so professional type?
Absolutely. This is a company that's growing. The reason they're looking at a three-phase development is because they are considering 2 new companies that they're in the process of developing, and hope to put those 2 new companies in this building also within the next couple of years. So we're very high on this company from the possibility of growth potential.
I will move to approve with Denny's conditions and stipulations as to any concerns for those to be addressed, but I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussions? Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, concept development plans for a 13,620 square foot retail center, Banterra Lot 3, northeast quadrant of Carmichael Road and Center Drive, Banterra LLC.
Okay, Dan Bergman with the Frisbee Architecture. Dan's the project engineer. I think the owner, Banterra LLC, is here tonight along with their engineer and the project contractor, Garrick Construction. Generally, the issues are pretty minor from a review standpoint. There was one concern in regards to where any infiltration may be required for storm sewer. That would have to be addressed in the final development plans if it is required by the DNR. The buildings are very similar to the other buildings in the Banterra development at the south, the ones that are located southeast quadrant of Stage Line Road and Carmichael. But Dan will go over those particular issues. So city staff's recommending approval of the concept development plans with the plans to be modified per the city engineer comments and fire department comments.
And you will explain exactly where this is in relation to everything else?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So where we are is on the corner of Carmichael and Center. This building here is the Chipotle Verizon. So this is the empty lot. Perkins is back behind here and US Bank is over here. So this is a new, this square footage is it's a little bit less now. We're about 2,000 less. We're about 11,770. And we're set back off of Carmichael to line up with the Chipotle building. 89 parking stalls that will connect up with this one just for flow and out to Center, and we move this back to have some stacking. And we've got trash enclosure out here by the road off of this drive for easier access. Other than that, we've got a few spots for some outdoor seating if the tenants would go in would require it or want it. Mechanical room and rooftop units. All the utilities come in off of Center Drive right into the mechanical room. And all of our stormwater is being collected down in the 2 existing ponds that are to the south.
What type of tenants and or people do you expect to come in there, or do you have any idea? Or is that a inappropriate question?
Restaurant, retail, similar style tenants of what's in the rest of the development.
There's a lot of trend today with people that want rooftop type restaurants.
No.
Okay.
Nope,
Gotta ask
that's
the-
not in the plan right now.
Gotta ask the question.
You say you're a couple thousand square feet less?
Yep.
Is it, you still have the same number of storefronts? And
Same
just
storefronts,
narrower?
yep, this space got a little bit smaller than, it was on the write-up of the 13,620, so this tenant got a little bit smaller.
And we had a basement, 1,500 square foot basement originally also, and that's gone now.
Yep.
Okay.
But
Sure.
it's gonna look like
It'll look
this.
exactly like that here. Yep, it's still the same look as Buffalo Wild Wings, the Starbucks, and the Chipotle building with the 2 different color brick, aluminum windows, 2 colors of ephes, tenant signage up on top, the same light fixtures. It's similar, it's a couple of feet taller than the Chipotle building, but a couple of feet less than some of the other ones, so height-wise, it's within the rest of them. Same materials, same building, new lot.
Okay.
Questions? Any?
I have one question. Danny, I don't know if you can answer this because you don't know what tenant mix is going in here, but do we anticipate the possibility of a variance, parking variance requested
Well,
based on tenant mix?
Well, we talked about where a restaurant goes in here, their number of seats may be limited based on what available parking they're providing. So now, the concept originally of this overall development was to share parking between some of the various areas, but regardless, if they're bringing in uses that are much higher than just general retail, which requires 1 per every 2, where a restaurant would require 1 per every 2 seats. So the limitation, there may be some limitation on the size of the restaurant that would be permitted, so.
But is there ancillary parking around there that could absorb some of this, or they?
Well, there's a couple of ways of possibly addressing that. One is if there's, I don't know if I've ever seen the northern parking lot fully utilized,
Okay.
where some of those employees may go up and park in that area. They may want to try to manage parking, employee parking, to maximize their customer parking. It's something they may need to address if the parking becomes tight.
I move to approve with any stipulations that Denny would have as contingency factors on this, please.
Again, city engineer and fire department comments to be incorporated in their.
Did I say that correctly, or should I reword my?
Just did, yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Nice project.
Yes.
Okay. Item 7 is a plat amendment, amend lot line configuration, Heritage Greens, Tribute Avenue, townhomes, 12 lots east of Tribute Avenue and north and east of Linden, private street, CJ Builders.
And Doug Zaylor, the surveyor, is here tonight to discuss it. This plat change is, the lot configurations are extremely minor. I mean, in the overall picture, really the only issue the city has is that there'll be 12 duplexes proposed on the 12 lots. So they have a common lot line will run north-south, so there'd be access on the Tribute Avenue, which is to the west, and in Linden, which is to the east.
What was the initial plan for this? Was it
Same,
duplexes?
same. I really questioned where this plat was even necessary. Doug called the state and said, no, They said this modification of the plat was necessary, that's the reason it's coming here. The only issue the city really has on this is that there's curb cuts already made on the Tribute Avenue side, and the north 3 curb cuts will have to be modified to account for the architectural design of those units on the west side. And what we want to make sure is that when those curb cuts are modified and restoration takes place, that we have enough surety provision to the city to make sure that they're done correctly.
Is this an improvement, or is this an accommodation of their plans, please?
It's a very minor accommodation.
Okay.
Where are we at with walking paths?
There's sidewalks on the west side.
West side,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Okay,
Now,
Sidewalks already exist.
right. I didn't know if we were requiring that in this spot here at all, or we're just gonna keep it on the west side.
Well, there's sidewalks on both sides of Tribute.
Yeah, there's sidewalk here.
Sidewalks on existing on the west side of, east side of Tribute, and also
Okay.
both sides of Tribute, there's sidewalks.
There's, okay, that's what I wanted to.
So they're
check.
following through on their master plan for sidewalk improvements.
Okay.
Mary, you had a question?
yeah, relative to these houses, we obviously had an issue up there with the way the houses were sitting around the park, so are these gonna be sitting, I know, I see that the front of the homes are facing Linden and Tribute Avenue, so it's going to flow with the rest of the development, and they're not gonna be looking backwards and,
No, really, that's the original plan was basically set up the same way as this is. The only difference is the building size here, or the shape of it, is such that they didn't fit on the lots the way they were originally platted, so they're still back-to-back, twin homes. Just had to reconfigure the lots somewhat to make these new buildings fit.
okay.
And it's a building that's been real popular up there. They're the same buildings that are up in here. So,
The building configuration is the same as what was proposed before. This is a very minor adjustment of lot lines.
Okay, so then, maybe this issue isn't to be talked about here, but where are we then relative to the stop signs that are supposed to be at the entrance? Because this is also close to the entrance.
So I'll talk with the developer on the stop signs. Yeah.
Okay,
That's not an issue.
That's a separate issue.
it's a separate issue, but
Address, yeah.
we're keeping, with more building coming in, it's
Yeah,
just.
no, I understand.
Are you planning on proceeding with this shortly?
Doug's the surveyor.
Yeah, I'm
Oh. Well,
Um,
why not
I
ask the
think
question?
Builder?
Jeff
The builder
is
here?
here,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you make a motion, Fred?
I'm about to.
Okay.
I will move to approve with, again, any stipulations that Denny might have as to any concerns
Second.
with this issue.
Okay, any other discussion?
Well, then now include the surety of.
Yep.
of-
Absolutely. Any concerns was my terminology.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mary, Kevin, anything?
Call for question.
I didn't hear that.
Well, you need to.
Yeah.
I just have one more question,
Okay.
and then maybe it's for the builder.
I did.
And you know that we were dealing with that issue together, so the houses number 1 and 2 there, the side of the home that's gonna be facing Ivy Green, is it going to be, can you just, I mean, how is it going to look on that side? Am I gonna be getting phone calls, or?
Of course you are.
We're not changing where the building, where that, I mean, everything's the same, we're just tweaking the lot lines a little bit to actually fit the building that was supposed to be on there.
Okay, so,
It'd
so
be
they're
no-
aware of the design, is what I'm saying? The art committee over there is all aware of everything, and,
Yes.
okay, I just
Okay,
want to make sure.
Well, it's no different than any other house on a corner lot. You'll have one front of the house facing one street, and you have a side of the house facing the other street. It'll be typical of a corner lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay, so-
hoping, but,
Absolutely.
okay. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Item 8, preliminary subdivision review, 201 Carmichael Road, 2 certificate survey maps west of Carmichael. Chris Hansen.
There were two certified survey maps that were proposed for review by the city, by Chris Hansen, owners of the Hudson Country Club, or the Country Club, I believe as they now call it. One lot, there's two lots in one certified survey map that would have been at the location of the existing clubhouse and then created a new lot in the parking lot south of the clubhouse. The third certified survey map, which was a different document, would have created a certified, or lot, excuse me, on the, where the 18th green is, north of the clubhouse. There's a number of issues and a lot of potential detail to carry this forward. And I felt it's just best that we talked about the concept tonight rather than try to get into a lot of details on sanitary sewer, water, relocation of trunk mains, those types of things. If the general concept's understood and once the Plan Commission wants to advance that, then they could start working potentially on the other more detailed issues.
With your comments, what is the intent of this?
To get an understanding between, allow the developer to explain what they're proposing to do.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll turn it over
Love to hear
to
it.
Jeff or to,
I'm Jeff Redmond, also, Chris Hansen. This was scheduled, he had a trip planned with two of his grandchildren, and he's in Seattle. He took a train ride, took the Empire Builder across through the
Cool.
Rockies, so I apologize that he apologizes that he isn't here. He normally would want to be personally involved. But, so what we're proposing tonight is to get your input and feedback on two certified survey maps. The first one is, I'll say, easy. What is known as Lot 3, which is basically the 18th green, the one that Vanna White is showing here. And that lot is already zoned commercial, and we would simply extend to the northern property boundary the current platted lot where the clubhouse is. So that would be an additional lot. And you'll see later, the access would be through the other lots. So that's one of the certified survey maps, the concept. The other one is lot 1 and 2 in outlot 1. So lot 1 is where the current clubhouse is. So that total lot is currently a platted lot. We're simply proposing to break into 2 lots with the outlot. The need for the outlot is really future planning access. We've had lots of conversations with Denny and others about ultimately having some sort of roadway that might cross the golf course, and that would be a signaled intersection, which would be more a quarter mile back from the current interchange that could provide some relief to the busy traffic on Cooley Road in Carmichael. So that lot is put there just to make sure whatever happens later, there's plenty of room to put a road.
Is that an access to the parking lot?
It is the current access to the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
That's where the entrance comes in.
Yeah.
We can show that. So you can see that's the ultimate configuration of those lots. So we'd have to reconfigure where Culver's comes in. I've had a personal conversation with the owners of Culver's. They're actually supportive. It would give them better flow through their lot. And, so they would move their driveway from, immediately off of Carmichael to, it's about 250 feet back. But that's the current access.
May I ask a question? What is the ultimate intent of all these actions? Is this going to be, is the Hudson Golf Course going to disappear and this is going to turn into a sale of commercial land? I'm just curious. I mean,
No,
maybe
very fair question.
maybe I'm inappropriate, but
No,
you're
very
kind of
fair
leading
question.
down this path, and I have to ask that question.
And you'll see in the packet, because we were asked by Denny and others that, kind of, what's the ultimate plan? Well, the current plan is to operate a golf course.
Okay.
And the golf course is open now. I'll say that the financial viability of a golf course is suspect in the area. And, you know, Chris bought this and, you know, put a couple $1 million in this facility, both the clubhouse and new maintenance buildings, and the financial performance of the golf course hasn't turned around. So his hope is that he can get these Carmichael lots subdivided and sold, continue to operate the golf course is his hope and expectation. You'll see in your packet what could be an ultimate development of the golf course. This would only happen if some big box store expressed interest. There wouldn't be the financial capacity, I'll say sensibility, to do all of that infrastructure if you didn't have that big tenant to do it. So we were asked, well, what might the golf course look like if it wasn't a golf course? So we hired Kathy Anderson. She's a Twin Cities retail expert in terms of retail development. And so she came up with this design that would have a road going in between Culver's and the clubhouse area, going along this southerly boundary of the golf course and coming out at Ward in front of the old True Value, in front of those maintenance buildings. So, you know, if that ever happened, we would expect that there would need to be a four-way interchange where Culver's and the clubhouse, you would have to put a signal interchange there. It would completely change the dynamic.
I just wanted you to throw the cards on the table
No, that's
as
fine.
to,
No, it is.
here's what we're maybe thinking.
Yeah.
As chair of the park board, I have to ask if that donated land is donated perhaps to the city as a
That's
potential
the
future
expectation.
parkland.
That's the expectation. You know, we tried to give this to the school and they didn't want it. And so, there's actually, Angela showed that 22 acres up in the corner.
You're saying right in,
No,
right in here,
there.
right
So
here.
that land there is subject to a 40-year restriction that it requires it to be used as a golf course. The rest of the land, when Chris bought it, he gave a promise that he wouldn't do anything to the golf course that would inhibit the ability to operate a regulation golf course. He didn't promise to operate a golf course. He just said, we won't do anything to inhibit the operation of a regulation golf course. Well, in this case, by eliminating the 18th green, we would move that green down the fairway to make it a par 4, more reasonable, so the mayor can get it to the green. That was a cheap shot. That was a cheap shot. But, so we don't feel that anything we're asking to be discussed tonight interferes with that. But because the golf club went out of business after Chris bought it, it's like, well, who enforces that? So unbeknownst to the city, we said, well, if any development ever happened on the golf course, it would require all kinds of city approvals, and we would vest in the city the right to modify that 10-year restriction. Now, 2 of those 10 years is already passed. But that 40-year restriction, if not used for a golf course, it would revert to the Hans Hagen development. They probably don't really want it.
After 40 years, it would refer to that?
No, if it's not used as a golf course.
But after 40 years, it would?
No, if after 40 years, we'd get to keep it.
I see.
But if in that 40-year period, and there's 30 years left probably,
I see.
it would revert. Personally, I think they probably don't want it because they have to pay taxes and maintain it. So we're kind of suggesting that if we ever did this development, we'd give the city some land, and we'd also give them that 22 acres, and hopefully they could haggle with that development and say, well, why don't you just
Well,
waive that?
just from a visual standpoint, the 40-year area, is that where the 18th tee is?
It's up on
In the
hill.
woods?
It's up in the hill there, yeah.
All right.
And the 11th.
And the 11th too?
That's a fairway.
Right, okay. So it's that whole edge?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And why also we looked at that is you can kind of see in this area right here and right here, there is an environmental corridor that has been identified. We've talked with the county, and through the sewer, the Hudson area sanitary sewer, that basically we'd keep this corridor anyways. There's mature trees and steep slopes through here. So it's just a nice break to keep this all the natural and then be able to look at options on the other.
You'd have to move the 11th fairway too then?
No, if this ultimate development happens, it ain't a golf course. It becomes a commercial development and a 40-acre park.
So, yeah.
Lots 1, 2, and the outlot, is that in, I don't golf up there, so. But is that in place of the driving range, or is that right before?
No, the driving range is kind of east.
Driving range is
is
basically
right
right
where the
there.
hand is.
Okay.
There would be ultimately some relocation of, I think, the 10th tee box would have to be moved back a little bit.
Okay.
So conceptually, this kind of tells you how the three lots sit together and where the culver's entrance. We would propose cross easements. You see some numbers on there that accommodate the anticipated uses, and this would fit within the parking numbers. If by chance the clubhouse would continue to be an event center that would have 300 people coming, then on one of our maps, we show capacity that we could add additional parking. That's not included in the subdivision now, but if that use was one that was needed, probably wouldn't have enough parking, and so as Danny talked about that other development, we'd have to restrict the number of seats in order to accommodate that. There's 150 acres available for additional parking, and so we've kind of reserved some place where we could add parking if that particular use buyer came and wanted to use the clubhouse.
Danny, can I ask you a question? With these proposed changes, does that fit into the overall master plan and the overall?
Those are issues. I mean, let's try to
overall thinking that was gonna happen with this property on a long-term basis?
let's try to separate two issues here. One is the three lots that they're proposing that front on Carmichael Road. That area is designated as commercial.
Yep.
And so the three lots would conform with the master plan from a land use standpoint.
Okay.
Any other proposals west of that, currently it's, is shown as recreational commercial, which the general intent was that that'd be a golf course. So any possible changes in the future in that area would require a change in the comprehensive plan, as zoning changes. So that whole area, that whole issue would have to be looked at. So, the reason they're bringing you that information is only to give you an indication why that driveway access off of Carmichael Road is necessary.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a potential connection to that area. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
I understand.
It's extremely conceptual at this point. I mean, the city would have to release the golf course if it's within that 10-year period. Comprehensive plan would have to change, zoning would have to change, all those, and that's what Jeff was saying. There's a number of city considerations to address that second part of this question. First part is the three lots that they are proposing along that abut Carmichael Road, one of which is the current clubhouse location, one is which is south of the clubhouse, and one which is north of the clubhouse, plus the outlot, which would be that potential road connection off of Carmichael in to the west in the future. Now, if that would be improved, our conversation basically would be retained as a private driveway for a period of time, but probably designed and built to city standards. So if it ever was dedicated to the city, they don't have to totally reconstruct it. So those are we're dealing with concepts here. Those are the concepts.
And that's kind of why we thought it best tonight to talk about concepts and get your input. We're not asking for approval of the 150-acre concept.
No.
We're really asking for the three lots.
Let me ask another question then, is if you give a segmented approval of something like that, what does that do to the rest of any potential movement or plans that could happen? In other words, you take these three lots and say, okay, we agree with you. But what does that then do to the rest of it? I mean, I realize that's,
No
I'm
commitment
making
on
you
the
shoot at the moon here at this one, but,
No commitment on the city to do anything west of these 3 lots.
okay, okay.
And basically what, the current zoning is for general commercial. So what they would potentially propose in any of those 3 lots would have to fit within our zoning considerations.
We don't need rezoning, it's already been.
Correct.
Master plan is, so.
Okay.
Zoning ordinance does provide, it does,
Just to give you a little, if Chris was able to sell the clubhouse, where you check in and out, that would be moved probably to that building that he keeps being built.
But you made an interesting statement. If Chris was able to sell the clubhouse, which means he's trying to sell it.
Oh, yeah, it's listed with Greystone Commercial now.
Okay.
We just haven't marketed too much because we don't know what we're selling. We don't know if we're selling 1 big lot or
Okay.
2 lots or 3 lots.
Yes.
My comment was informational, not
Yeah, yeah.
intent, please.
Yeah.
Question I have is, expansion to the north of this property at some point. Years ago, we talked about having frontage roads on one or both sides of Carmichael, expanding Carmichael. I believe at this end of this property, we go to, is where it goes from 4-lane down to 2. What are we gonna do about that at this time, if anything? Or is that just totally separate?
well,
Or should we talk about,
well, the
potential access from the north for a frontage road off of proposed lot 3 here? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's, this could potentially be designed to extend to the north. I mean, it'd be a private driveway, it wouldn't be a public street. Now, the consideration is that the access that we're talking about, taking west of Carmichael, is the closest that the DOT will allow in here. And so that's been the location that we've talked about, access to the west and access to the east of Carmichael Road. Also, the general access management plan is to only allow access this area approximately every 1/4 mile until you get up to Vine Street, and also combined with a set of frontage, which you're getting back to that frontage road concept. Now, we'd want to try to look at, we're not approving those concepts tonight.
No, I know, I understand, I'm just talking, we're
I
talking.
mean, even on the 3 lots.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's something we could potentially address, but, again, to the north is not annexed to the city of
Correct.
Hudson, but we could give consideration to that.
And right now, there's that little right-hand turn lane off into the clubhouse area. Would that be closed or kept open? So we have
Well,
more
at
of
least-
a
at least in-
4-lane area there, or?
At least in the proposal, it's been discussed with me as they would close it.
Okay.
But
We
that,
actually hope that it could stay open, but you never would be able to have a,
Left turn.
it'd stay the same configuration it is now, right in only.
one of the things, Paul, that we have, you can see in the north, the 18th green lot, lot 3, there's a little piece that we would add to the right of way.
Okay.
You can see that
I
little,
see.
for whatever
I see
reason,
it.
when I know what happened, when they did the triple play development, so lots 1, 2, and the outlot were part of the triple play development when the golf course reconfigured and, targeted that whole development. And so they moved the lot line back, and you can see on the map to the right how it sticks out. So the golf course property actually jets out there, and we're proposing to make that line, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
can add that to the right of way.
Right, I see that little dedicated spot there, okay.
To make that width of right-of-way consistent from west to south.
It's not enough for a frontage road.
No,
It's
but
just to
just to widen that.
finish it up
Yeah.
so that whatever the city chooses to do within the current right of way,
Okay.
they have the full width all the way to the northerly property boundary.
Kevin, you had a question?
Just in looking at these 3 lots, I don't want to talk about the big development with all the issues related to that, but to follow up on what Paul's saying, to have flow here, and I mean, we all know that future commercial is going to be on Carmichael Road, north of the freeway at some point in time. So to do 3 lots without thinking about what's north of there or what's possibly across the street, I think is maybe short-sighted on our part. You know, we have some issues over, you know, on the Walmart side of the freeway that, you know, it's, you know, you always gotta exit businesses to get to a busy frontage road, and I'm concerned that we're starting the same problem over here. So if we were to go this direction, I'd really like to see consideration of a frontage road or a back road that could take into consideration what happens to the north someday. You know, maybe this road that goes behind your buildings is a straight road that goes through to the north at some point in time.
Right.
Because if all these businesses are separate and they only have one way in and one way out, we're gonna have problems again.
That's,
I know one of the, you know, you can't go from Walmart to County Market.
Yeah,
without
that's a
Right.
big problem.
Even if they had a driveway that would allow a cut between the two would be helpful.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair
Well,
comment. A frontage road there is.
unfortunately, it's one of the businesses doesn't want it, the other one.
Right.
Right, I understand.
But
we,
we can accommodate that in
Right.
easements
But
or
then-
whatever.
Those are the types of things, issues you want to know about to try
Right,
to
exactly.
accommodate, you know, any
that's the
future
concern I have is,
proposals.
you know, we have to look more than just now, we have to look in the futures, you know, so we have to have that extra
I mean,
flow
realistically,
potentially.
there's not room, I would think, to put a frontage road in front of the clubhouse.
No.
No.
And
no,
so
but you
if
could,
Behind.
you could behind.
Well, you either behind or come out on the side or something.
You have some slope issues on the back,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know, we've determined that, you know, right now it comes right in off the street to go behind those buildings for the cross access.
And, I mean, I think at this point in time, we have to assume that this is always gonna be a golf course, and there may be 3 businesses here. So, and there may be future requests, north of here to be annexed into the city and to do something. So, I think we need access to that property somehow through these 3 lots to get to a stoplight.
Yep.
So have you talked to the neighbors to the north?
I have.
So my question kind of goes off what Kevin was saying. Maybe I just need you might have said it and I missed it, but the proposed road there that would go to Ward Street, would that go in with these 3 properties or only if the other lot, only if the whole development were to turn over?
Yeah, that road is not going in.
Unless it turns over?
Unless we change the comprehensive plan, we get rezoning of the whole property, there's a site development plan, so there is.
So the golf course goes
months
away,
Yeah, and the golf course
goes away and it's redeveloped.
Because
What we probably
because it would cut
do-
into the golf course or,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
It is the
Oh, yeah.
local.
I don't know the
Yeah, it's
layout.
middle of the
What
golf
we would
course.
probably do, to Denny's point, is we would build that road back to the point of separation to be a road, city spec road.
Okay,
So that if it ever did happen, 10 years from now, 5 years, 100 years from now, that you wouldn't have to tear up that driveway.
okay.
Yeah, just for, here's the existing Target, here's Family Fresh, here's Associated Bank, so you can kind of see how
Yeah,
that would be, how it
But
plays out.
the concept of what you're saying has been brought up before and has been discussed, so it's not a new idea, it's an old idea. That
No, and-
this could at some point in time maybe happen.
Before we purchased the property, in conversations with the city, we were made aware of different proposals, you know, no approvals of anything, a whole number of different proposals to try to address the Cooley Road,
Mhm.
Carmichael. And, you know, this was a golf course, so the city wasn't gonna go to the golf course and say, hey, we're gonna close you down and put in a road.
right.
But, so we were aware that there was a possibility that the city might ask the golf course to put a road along that southerly boundary. But, and that's frankly what, you know, if the golf course doesn't work, you're gonna sit there and grow weeds or, you know, so we
Yeah.
were asked, well, what happens with the rest of it?
Well, and on top of that, to add to your statements, and Denny, correct me when I'm wrong here, but the state DOT needs alternate accesses to Carmichael Road to keep that intersection operating in a reasonable fashion, and the only way to do that maybe might be adding a different access to that via a frontage road of what you're saying. So there's that's all speculation, that's all.
Most likely, traffic and, with the development, if this area would be redeveloped, traffic analysis would be required. I mean, it goes hand in hand. And I guess the question is, does that road help alleviate
Or add.
or, congestion, or is the land uses so intensive that that offsets any mitigation of existing so that has to be analyzed.
I'm gonna choke when I say this, but it might need a roundabout.
Kevin?
You don't live in
Everyone,
Roberts, do you?
everyone knows how much
You
I
should
love,
choke on that.
I don't love roundabouts, I'm just saying that, I can't stand them, but.
Kevin, you had a question? Or didn't you?
I did. She talked about roundabouts. I lost my concentration.
Sorry.
Um,
Kevin likes roundabouts.
So if these 3 lots were to happen in one of these ways, your check-in or pro shop or whatever for your golf course would then move to the cart shack that was built. Where would the parking be for the golfers then?
Probably where the driving range is.
Where the driving range is, that's a holding pond right now.
Yeah,
So
figure
what,
that out.
okay, and how to get to it also.
Well, getting to it, if you go back to the other one, getting to it is easy enough. There's parking between that, cart shack
And Culvers.
and Culver's.
Yeah, currently there's the side parking lot is basically right here.
That's right there.
Yes.
So it would eliminate the
So
driving
you'd-
range then?
So you'd,
Yes.
so
This
you'd then,
development does not.
so you'd then go to the east of the cart shack with a road, a temporary road then?
Yeah, basically this would be a drive,
Would-
a
Would you go
continuation of
there
the
or would you go
road.
the other way?
Might go
Go.
behind, might go behind where the parking lot is.
Even go through here
Yep.
and behind, yeah.
Yeah, because now you're taking more golf course away if you go the
Yeah,
other
exactly.
direction.
You'd be going down the,
And you'd have golfers have to cross the road to get to the course. You don't
Right,
want that.
no, you don't want that.
Dumb question, Denny, for clarification, what are we being asked to do here?
Well,
Just
you
back
really
to-
don't
back
need
to the
You really
basic,
don't need
what-
to approve anything, it's really a discussion to try to get an
Informational.
understanding, so if they bring back their proposal again with these certified survey maps, that they're able to address issues that you would, this is kind of a pre-discussion, give them some ideas, well, what your concerns would be if they bring back the 3 certified survey maps.
And I appreciate your approach on that,
Thank
to
you.
do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said, my concern was that some access to the north at some point, that we have to have, it may never happen, but a potential that there could be a road connection there to the north, the frontage road.
Okay.
My hope tonight was to just get ideas, concerns, you have a better idea, things that we can consider. So when we bring it back, hearing the issues that you have that we hadn't anticipated, we tried to anticipate as much as we could, we've been around a while. But, this is one that we hadn't thought about, so, it's one that we can address. So when we come back, presumably next month, we can have all that worked out and present something that anticipates your concerns and we address them to your satisfaction.
And I would guess if issues come up, that you may want them, driving home tonight, you said, oh, guys, I wish I would have asked that question, give me a call and I can forward those issues on to them.
There are issues about moving some utilities, and Angela has all the answers. That's why she wants you to, came just so you could ask.
that's all right.
We've anticipated there's gonna be some utility movement, sewer lines and water access that will need to happen, and Angela's already worked on some of that with the city staff.
At what phase will we consider a traffic study?
Probably not till after the, I don't think for these 3 lots that you're looking for that.
As long as there's accommodations.
Well, and then we know,
Okay, there's-
and do we know the long-term intent? I guess that's part of it. I mean, there's no question that okay, here's the first phase of it, but here's what we plan on doing
Right.
ultimately.
I guess the question would be, is, what configuration do we want that roadway west? I mean, they could potentially design it to accommodate traffic for the 3 lots.
Right.
And then it has to be modified in the future, or do they want it, if you gotta do I would tie the traffic analysis into, they have to make certain assumptions on what land uses would be to the west, what those traffic would be, and then that helps design the configuration of that road, which would be private until dedicated to the city in the future. That would be more the purpose of a traffic analysis at this time, is help determine that.
The current zoning of the golf course is R1. So we could come with a 300 lot residential subdivision. I don't think anybody really wants that, but that would be consistent with the current zoning. And Chris has no interest in doing a residential development. And, frankly, he'd rather not do this commercial one anytime soon because it's a pretty big financial undertaking.
Okay, any other questions for Jeff or Joe? Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for your
thanks
ideas,
comment.
yes.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Other business for informational purposes only, or something you'd like to add to the agenda for next?
Next meeting is July 12th.
Have we heard from the school yet?
I had city staff had a meeting with them a week ago, talking about various issues at the 4 sites that are being reviewed. They're working on,
Would it be prudent to have a discussion about city sewer and water capabilities out to other parcels at this time, just
we
amongst
could-
us?
we could do that, yeah. We could do that.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'm so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, thank you.